Hey guys, it's Jeff. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Elevation by Stephen King. So this is only the second novel that I've ever read by Stephen King, and it's his shortest novel by far. It's only about like 143 or 140 something pages. And I kind of I like when Stephen King does shorter novels. The only other one I've read is called The Eyes of the Dragon, and that was like his take on like a fantasy, long ago medieval times book, and I really enjoyed that one. But other ones that I've tried to read, like Under the Dome, I've read maybe like half of it, and I think I tried starting The Gunslinger one time. And every time I try to start one of his books, I don't know what it is, but I just can't seem to like wrap myself up in his, I don't know if it's his writing style. It's got to be, because like his ideas for books are amazing, and I enjoy the movie versions. But for whenever I try to sit down and read a book, I just can't seem to like really commit myself fully to dive into it. But anyway, so we're going to talk about this one. Elevation follows a guy named Scott Carey who lives in Maine, as most of Stephen King's books preside in. And it starts off with him going to another doctor friend of his to get a second opinion on something. He's losing weight, but his mass is staying the same. So the way that I look now, every day I would look this way every day, but each time I stepped on the scale, like once a day, I think he's weighing himself, he weighs like a pound less or 2 pounds less than the previous day. So the book starts off, he was at like 240 or something, and then he went down to 212 by the time he ends up talking to this doctor friend of his. Excuse me, I'm kind of sick. So he ends up going on the scale and showing him like, all right, look, I'm going to step on the scale with a coat on with a bunch of like change in my pocket. So I've got like 5 pounds on this side, 5 pounds of this of change in this pocket. And he tries to make himself 10 pounds heavier. He weighs himself. He's at 212. All right. He gets off the scale, undresses completely, takes the coat off, except for his boxers. And he gets back on the scale again, and he still weighs 212. And the doctor is like absolutely like flabbergasted by this. He's like, this literally can't be possible. So he keeps calling Scott. Scott keeps, checking up with him, saying like, yeah, I weighed myself again. I weigh this pound less, a pound less, a pound less. And Scott Carey has got this countdown on this calendar saying, if I keep losing weight by this time, here's the date. He calls it 0 day. Here's the day that I'm going to completely run out of weight, and I don't know what's going to happen. But what's kind of admirable about Scott, what I kind of like about this character is that he kind of takes the mentality that, I've had a good life so far. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if this is some kind of sickness or illness, but I don't want to be like a scientific weirdo, right? He doesn't want to be in a lab somewhere prodded by a bunch of machines. He just wants to live the rest of his days out as he normally would and kind of accept his fate, right? He doesn't want to just be this scientific spectacle on TV, and he would rather spend his last days, he's assuming his last days, with friends and his neighbors, making things right with his neighbors that he's kind of been feuding with, and the small town politics that everybody is getting caught up in. He just wants to make things right. He wants to live the rest of his days the best that he can, so that he can feel right with himself if since he doesn't know what's going to happen on that final day. And I think there's something to be really admired about that. And it kind of reminds me of if you've ever watched Breaking Bad, Walter White in Breaking Bad, not the murderous rage part, obviously, but his mentality of, I've got cancer. I don't want to spend my final years in a bed, too sick to get up, my head so like nauseous that I can't even like sit upright, throwing up all the time. And he just wants to spend his days as he normally would be living his life, around his family, around his friends, and making his life as best as he can. And I kind of like that about the book. You know, it's a really interesting idea for a story. And this one isn't really, it's not really scary. Like most of the time, Stephen King's novels, I think, you know, have like a thriller element to them. I don't really know of any other ones that are not thriller-ish, although I haven't, obviously haven't read a lot of his books, but this one is more sad, in my opinion, than scary. Like it's scary in the sense that, yeah, if you end up losing all this weight, what's going to happen to you? And by the time he gets down to like 40 pounds and 30 pounds, you know, he's literally almost floating. Like, or, you know, when he's trying to get around his apartment, it's really hard for him because he doesn't have any weight to him. So he has all this momentum and he bumps into things and has to kind of, you know, he runs past things and has to grab onto things. And, you know, life is very difficult for him towards the end of that book. And although it's a sad ending, it kind of makes you feel hopeful that he did, you know, he went out the way that he wanted to go out. And and I think there's just something that can be respected about that. So overall, I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 5. It's really short, and I really enjoyed it being this short. I didn't really feel like it needed to be, you know, expanded upon too much. The only negatives is that like sometimes the dialogue is a little strange towards the beginning, like when Scott is talking to his doctor friend, the dialogue back and forth between them almost seems like too happy-go-lucky, and you know not like doctor talk where he's trying to like, you know, make him feel better than what he's supposed to, but like the exchange of conversation between them just didn't feel like entirely natural all the time. And the first half of the book is a little slow, and the second half is where it really picks up. And I actually read the second half in one sitting. So it only took me a couple days to read, maybe 3 or 4 days total, but you could easily read this entire book in one sitting, no problem, which is really nice because it's like, all right, I just read a book today, you know? So it's really cool. So I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I'm glad that, I've read the 2 Stephen King books that I've read to completion. I've really enjoyed, and I would like to see more books like this, because a lot of the time his books are either this big or, you know, they're so big that you need like a backpack to carry them because they're like 1,000, 1,200 pages long. So I'd like to see more Stephen King novels where they're little short excerpts like this, because this one was really cool and I really enjoyed this one. I would definitely recommend you go pick this one up. So thanks for watching the video. Please like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next book review video. Bye.